or tambourine? Can you clap in time? Good. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Hari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopijana Vallabha Girivardhari Hari Gopijana Vallabha Girivardhari Vallabha Girivardhari Yashodanandana Pajajana Ranjana Yashodanandana Pajajana Ranjana Yamuna Tira Vanachari Tira Vanachari Yamuna Tira Vanachari Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Watch. Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Hare Hare. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Vishnupad Paramahamsa Parivajikacharya Ashtottara Sri Srimad Divine Grace Srila A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada Ki Jai. ISKCON BBT Founder Acharya Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Jayom Vishnupad Paramahamsa Parivajikacharya Ashtottara Sri Srimad Divine Grace Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur Ki Jai. Ananta Koti Vaishnavinda Ki Jai. Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai. Srimad Bhagavad Gita Ki Jai. Samaveda Bhaktivinoda Ki Jai. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to Shri Guru and Gauranga. Now, would any of you like any books? We have so many more Bhagavad Gitas. Is okay? Everything okay? Okay. And as you may know, we're going to have darshan at 8:15. Nice kirtan. So if you like this, and prasad. I don't know if they made enough for everybody, if you didn't tell them, but there'll be some prasad. There's usually some from lunch too. Okay, Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Okay. On this 24th day of October, 2023 in San Diego, we're reading from Srimad Bhagavad Gita as it is, translation and commentary by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. And we are in chapter 2 entitled Contents of the Gita Summarized, and we're on text 59, And we're on page 125. Vishaya vinivartante nidaharasya dehinaha rasavarjam rasopyasya param drishtva nivartate Vishaya vinivartante nidaharasya dehinaha rasavarjam rasopyasya param drishtva nivartate Vishaya vinivartante nidaharasya dehinaha rasavarjam rasopyasya padam drishtva nivartate Vishaya vinivartante nidaharasya dehinaha rasavarjam rasopyasya padam drishtva nivartate. Anyone over here? Vishaya vinivartante nidaharasya dehinaha rasavarjam rasopyasya padam drishtva nivartate. Would you like to try to chant? You want to chant it? Go ahead. Vishaya vinivartante nidaharasya dehinaha. The other side. The other side. That's it. Okay. Rasavarjam rasopyasya. Very good. Param drishtva nivartate. Vishaya vinivartante nidaharasya dehinaha rasavarjam rasopyasya param drishtva nivartate. Thank you. Anyone online? I guess not today. All right, I'll go through the synonyms word by word. Vishaya, objects for sense enjoyment. Vinivartante, are practiced to be refrained from. Nidaharasya, by negative restrictions. Dehinaha, for the embodied. Rasavarjam, giving up the taste. Rasaha, sense of enjoyment. Api, although there is. Asya, his. Param, far superior things. Drishtva, by experiencing. Nivartate, he ceases from. Translation, Lord Krishna said to Arjuna, though the embodied soul may be restricted from sense enjoyment, the taste for sense objects remains. But ceasing such engagements by experiencing a higher taste, he is fixed in consciousness. Purport. Unless one is transcendentally situated, it is not possible to cease from sense enjoyment. The process of restriction from sense enjoyment by rules and regulations is something like restricting a diseased person from certain types of eatables. The patient, however, neither likes such restrictions nor loses his taste for the eatables. Similarly, sense restriction by some spiritual process like Ashtanga Yoga in the matter of yama, niyama, asana, pranayama, pratyahara, dharana, dhyana, etc., is recommended for less intelligent persons who have no better knowledge. But one who has tasted the beauty of the Supreme Lord Kṛṣṇa in the course of his advancement in Krishna consciousness no longer has a taste for dead material things. Therefore, restrictions are there for the less intelligent neophytes in the spiritual advancement of life. But such restrictions are only good until one actually has a taste for Krishna consciousness. When one is actually Krishna conscious, he automatically loses his taste for pale things. Om Jnana Timirandasya Jnanandana Shalakaya Chakshu Unmilitam Mena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. I was born in the darkest of ignorance, but my spiritual master Srila Prabhupada opened my eyes with the torchlight of knowledge. I offer my humble obeisance unto him and all members of Sri Parampara. So this is a very important verse in the Bhagavad Gita. And many devotees who practice Krishna consciousness, we are engaged in the process of turning our attention away from material sense gratification and beginning to take pleasure in Krishna consciousness itself, and serving the Lord, being Krishna conscious, glorifying Him, and so forth. And so this verse is very much in the center of the experience of devotees who practice Krishna consciousness. So what he's saying here, first of all, the context is always important. Krishna is describing here those who are fixed in sthita pragya, whose intelligence is fixed in transcendence. You're looking for the bathrooms? You're okay? Okay. So it began, Arjuna wanted to know the characteristics of one who is sthita pragya, who is fixed in transcendence. And Krishna described, beginning in text 55, Prajahati yada kaman sarvan partamanogatan. It gives up the gross objects of sense gratification. And atmanev atmanatushta becomes satisfied by contacting the soul, and especially the super soul, Krishna. Atmanev atmanatushta sthita pragya stadochade. And this word sthita pragya comes in again and again. And the next verse, Dukesh anudvignamana sukeshu vigataspaha. Vita raga bhaya krodha stita dirmanaruchade. This phrase, stita raga bhaya krodha, comes up again in the Bhagavad Gita. It means rejecting attachment, fear, and anger. Attachment, fear, and anger. And these are results, this material attachment, of the results of what we call the modes of nature, the triguna, the rajas, sattva, rajas, and tamas, especially rajas and tamas. A mode of passion, a mode of ignorance, and even the mode of goodness can be entangling if there's no Krishna consciousness. So, vita raga bhaya krodha, the fear is and anger are generally caused by the mode of ignorance, and the attachment by the mode of passion. So one who is vita has given those up. Stita dhir, consciousness becomes fixed. Stita dhi. As a muni, as a wise person. Then the next verse he describes Yaksarvatra anabhisnehas tattat prapishabhashabam nabinantadinadveshti tasya pragyapatishtha. In the material world, one who is unaffected by whatever good or evil he may obtain, neither praising it nor despising it, is firmly fixed in perfect knowledge. And in this context, the word evil doesn't mean what we usually know. As someone who's evil, he always wants to do bad things to people. It means that which causes suffering. That's another meaning in English of the word evil. And so, in the course of our life, so many things happen to us that cause us suffering, either physical, mental, emotional, right? And those are under the ashubha, right? Ashubha. I'm sorry. Yeah, shubha and ashubha, the end of the first line. So these things, generally we rail at them. We despise them. We try to get rid of them, get as far away from them as possible. That's called dveshti, the hate. And the abhinandani is the things that are pleasing to our senses. We praise them and we like them. So someone who is equipoised, he takes the good and the bad in stride, and he's fixed in the self, in thinking of God and connecting to Krishna in Krishna consciousness. Then you're able to go through life and take the dualities in stride and not become disturbed. This is a pratishtata, the intelligence is fixed. Next verse, he compares it. What's the animal he compared to? You remember? Who can withdraw his senses within? The tortoise, the turtle, right? So Krishna is Rishikesha. He is really the master of our senses. And when the senses are allowed to search out these objects of a sense gratification, then we're using them for our own personal pleasure. So the devotee, the accomplished yogi, unless there is some mission or some activity that the senses can be used for Krishna, it doesn't use them. You see? Just like the tongue. You know, we don't just eat everything and anything, we eat prasadam. That's a service to Krishna, right? It's been offered, it's been cooked and offered with love, and it should be taken with love also. And this is a connection with Krishna. You see? That's a very powerful, the tongue is a very powerful sense. So that holds for all of them, the ears, the eyes, everything. As we know, there are so many sounds that can be vibrated, music that can keep us entangled in the material world. There's so many things to see. Who goes to the movie theater anymore? Everything's on your phone or in your computer, but it's taking away your eyes, taking away your ears, and it's making you forget Krishna. So one who is fixed in consciousness, he doesn't use the senses for that. There are things on the internet can help you be Krishna conscious. Oh, you can use them that way. So that's what this one about the kurma, Indriyan Indriyartebhyas, the senses and the sense objects, only using them for Krishna. Now the present verse, Vishayavani Vartante, Niraharasya. Niraharasya literally means not consuming. We're on page 125. Okay, again. And I think, I've got that book for you, I promised. Wait a minute. So, Vishayavani Vartante, Niraharasya Dehinak. For the embodied soul, one can give up the sense objects, not consume them, you see. But in that kind of artificial renunciation, the taste is still there. How many millions of people in this country are trying to lose weight, right? It's a common thing. And so you say, okay, I'm not going to eat this, I'm not going to eat this anymore, But still, the craving for the rich foods still may remain, you see. So at any time you can, as we say, go off the wagon, and you can indulge, and then you get discouraged. And that goes for more serious things like people who have a problem with alcohol addiction. They know it's not good, and their friends are telling them, you're ruining your life, you're ruining your family and everything. Said, okay, no more. But how long can you go on? You got a certain addiction. And if you go by the bar, he says, oh, maybe let me just go in there, my friends are in there, I won't take any drink. Oh, you're finished. You see? Because the desire is still there. But param drishtra navartate. Param here is Krishna. It's transcendental. If you see, drishtra stands in for all the senses. If you experience the transcendence in all its beauty and attractiveness, what does the word Krishna really mean? It means all attractive. Karshati, he's pulling our consciousness, you see? So Krishna is all attractive, and he's alive, he's God. He responds to our approach to him, chiefly by chanting the holy name, chanting his name. No prerequisite. Anyone, anytime, anyone can chant. It's a tremendous gift by Krishna in the form of Lord Chaitanya. So, then we have two things going on. We're getting attraction to Krishna, but we still have a little other attraction. But if we increase our attraction and involvement with Krishna, gradually, param drishtra nivartate, you don't return. The very attraction is long. This is called vairagya. Vairagya is very important in spiritual practice. It means curing yourself from the attraction for all the different things that we've enjoyed in this life and previous lives. There's karma also. We're picking up they're described as like knots in the heart, that ties us to birth and death again and again. We didn't enjoy in this lifetime as much as we wanted to. Okay, then next life we can have another chance, and again and again and again. So this is Vishaya Nivartante. Vishaya, the object of the senses. If you practice Krishna consciousness, you can become free even of the attraction, and then the material energy can't hurt you. But as long as you have that attraction, one false step and boom, your consciousness goes, you see, and you're not pragyate. So this is the what's called sadhana. It's a practice. And we do it under the guidance of a spiritual master and under the guidance of Krishna. The Bhagavad Gita is filled with Krishna's instructions. And this was Srila Prabhupada's great gift, and he worked so hard to establish these temples all over the world, where you can come together, you can glorify Krishna, you can hear Bhagavad Gita, you can take prasadam, you can see the deities, And then periodically we have these special events like Govardhan Puja, and this whole month of Kartika is coming up. This special song, we can meditate on Krishna's all-attractive childhood Leela, And this charms the mind, because it's very important. We are all originally Krishna conscious. And we're all naturally attracted to those wonderful pastimes, qualities, form of Krishna, And there's so many beautiful poems. Some of you may be familiar with the Krishna Karnamrita. The very name of the book is amazing. This was written by a great devotee named Bilvamangal Thakur, centuries before Lord Chaitanya. and 14 in the 12, 11, hundreds in India. And there's a whole story behind him, but he eventually went to Vrindavan and he wrote this beautiful book called Krishna Karnamrita. He was blind, but he had this spiritual vision. And so he's writing this book, and he's so much experiencing Krishna at every moment that he titled the book Krishna Karnamrita, which means this book is nectar for Krishna's ears. How can you write a book like that? How can you be sure, Because Krishna's telling him as he's writing. So he has this beautiful verse. I have several verses I put into poetry. So he's experiencing this. Krishna's form, his face, his smile. Madodam, madodam, vaporasya vibhor. Madodam, madodam, vadanam, madodam. Madogandhi madhusmita daho. Madodam, 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 madodam. You know what madodam means, sweet. Sweet, sweet is my dear Lord's form. Sweet is still his face so fair. But his honey-scented gentle smile is sweet beyond compare. And then near the end there's another one. Jaya 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 Deva 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 Chibhavana Mangala Divya Nama De Jaya 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 Deva Krishna Deva Shravana Mano Nayanama Tavatara. Oh glory, 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 Lord, oh glory unto thee, who with thy holy name bless all three worlds and set them free. Oh glory, glory, glory unto thee, O Krishna Dev, whose nectar floods our ears and eyes and hearts in endless waves. And this is the experience of the great devotees. And even if we just hear about it, it's a very attractive experience. They practically had nothing materially, just like we have in our line coming from Lord Chaitanya, these 6 Goswamis. They were his first disciples, and very, very erudite, especially Rupa and Sanatan Goswami. They lived in Vrindavan at Lord Chaitanya's instruction and wrote so many beautiful literatures. And Srila Prabhupada has given us the essence of one of them, the Nectar of Devotion, Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu. Very systematic description of Gaudiya Vaishnava Bhakti, devotion to Krishna, the process, the means, and the experience. He also gives descriptions of the friendship ras, Krishna's enjoying with his friends and with his parents, so many things, So one of the verses I memorized, Krishna is crawling before Mother Yashoda with a little, all he's wearing is the bells. He's got some golden, ankle bells and a pearl on his nose, and he's got a fresh butterball in his hand, and he's crawling toward his mother. And there's probably 1 million little statues of this in homes all over India, right? Everyone probably has one. Do you have one like that? Very attractive. So here's the verse. Kronata kanika kinkani kalapam smitamukam udruna nasika gramuktam kadadita navanita pindamangre tanayamavekshan anandananda patni. It's a master, poetry it's way beyond anything you can do in English. So Kwanita Kanaka, Kwanita means the sound, a very sweet, tinkling sound of the golden waist bells as Krishna's crawling is making this beautiful tinkling sound. Kwanita Kanaka Kinkani Kalapa, that's the series of bells. And as he's crawling toward his mother. Kwanita Kanaka Kinkani Pala Smita Mukam, his face is smiling. Ujjvala Nasika Gramuktam. On the tip of his nose, he has this shining pearl. That's all he's wearing. He's got the pearl and he's got the bells, and he's got the butterball. And Kadadrita, in his hand, he's holding Navanita Pindam, the fresh butterball. Navanita Pindam Agre Tanayam Aveksha. And Mother Yashoda, seeing her son approaching her in front of her, Agre Tanayam Aveksha Nananda Nanda Patni. She's known as Nanda Patni, the wife of Nanda. And she's delighted. She's overwhelmed with bliss. Nananda Nanda Patni. That's one beautiful verse. It gives you a whole picture. You can chant it a few times and get it. It's just a meditation on Krishna. And also the literature is filled with that. And we have the deities, of course, you can directly see, and you can hear, and you can smell the incense. So all the senses can be engaged. And this verse is describing how by experiencing Krishna with our transcendental senses, you lose the taste for lower things, which are bringing us back again and again for birth and death. So, any questions or comments on this verse? Anyone online? They're out there. They're just shy. You want to use the... Oh, we didn't get the mics. We were kind of a little... Does anyone know where the mics are? The other 2 mics? Because I'll repeat the question. Go ahead. Go ahead. Yeah. What I was just reciting, because I wasn't reading it. That the Krishna Karnamrita I can send you. You know, there's about 112 verses, and they all have. And I made a recording of it, most of the verses, so that I can. And Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, that's in the Nectar of Devotion. That's what you can find. You can find that out here or in the lounge. You can buy it here.
The book.
Yes, a book of Nectar of Devotion, very important book.
I have that one. I just haven't started reading it.
Okay, you have it already. All right, so we're going to go on to text 60. Oh, you have a question? Comment.
In the purport, Prabhupada says dead material things. Why? What's the significance of
Why are they
dead?
dead? Well, first of all, we have to know that everything in the spiritual world is alive. You know, this is what is amazing, is that it's all transcendental energy, Krishna's internal energy. The lakes, you know, what to speak of the cows and the trees, we know they're alive, but they're not just alive. Hare Krishna. We're going to, okay. You're welcome to stay, but if you need to go, Hare Krishna. Thank you for coming. You took advantage of the temple nicely. Sorry you didn't get too much darshan. Hare Krishna. So, as opposed to this world, which is a combination of spirit and matter, right? The body is not really alive in and of itself. It is animated by the presence of the soul. And this becomes very obvious at the time of death. When the soul leaves, then you have just a lot of matter there that has to be disposed of some way, right? That's the way it is. So the body was never really alive in and of itself, but it was animated by the presence of the soul. So this world is a combination of matter and spirit. We have the spirit souls, and then we have the bodies. Krishna is also there. He is present in every atom, you know, and in every heart as the super soul. So that's also spirit. So the material world exists because we wanted it. We wanted to rebel against Krishna. We wanted to try to enjoy separately, and in fact imitate and be the enjoyers, you know, and the masters. We're not suited to do it, but we can fake it. We can be given a world in which we can pretend to do that, but then we suffer. And at a certain point, and when we're fortunate, we come in touch with real knowledge. If you know, Krishna himself speaks the Bhagavad Gita, but his representatives and the books are left. Then we can begin to understand who we are, and why we're suffering. This is the first question of the inquisitive soul. They ask the proper person: is that who am I actually, and why am I suffering? I'm not only suffering in this life. You know, the famous threefold miseries? We're all familiar with them. We may not know them as such. The miseries, the official name is Adi Bhautik, Adhyatmik, Adidaivik. So Adidaivik, we're very familiar with. These are difficulties caused by bigger forces, the Daiva means the demigods are behind them, you know. But like, you know, earthquakes and tsunamis, and big forest fires and all of these things. Now, I always say there's kind of a hybrid going on here, because isn't it anthropogenic climate change? We know what that means, right? Caused by human beings, because we're pumping out all this gas, right? And plastic into the oceans and all this stuff, cutting down trees. And then, when there's a change in climate, or that suddenly there's huge forest fires, they can't, you know, Canada was like burning up Australia. Northern California. We had one down here years ago. I'm sitting in Vrindavan, and I'm looking over the shoulder of someone. They have a newspaper from Delhi, and right on the front page is about the forest fires in San Diego, California. I'm sitting in Vrindavan watching it. Whoa, this must be pretty big. And I get back here. Of course, it didn't burn down to the beach because there's no trees here, but the smoke came. And my friend had left the windows open, and so all that soot got into the apartment. I had to clean up for a few days, you know. But anyway, it can happen. You know, we each have. So this is Adidaivik, you know, big miseries. But there's also Adibhautik, caused by other living beings. Sadly, often by other human beings. You know, wars and things that happen on a personal level. You know, so many things. Or as Prabhupada said, bed bugs. You know, he had experience in India, the bed bug, you know, so many different living entities. And then there's just your own body and mind. You know, you had some trauma when you were a kid, and you can't, it's PTSD, and your mind won't give you any peace, you know. But to speak of the body, you know, it gets older and the things give out, and, you know, I feel fine except for my hip. I can hardly walk, you know, like that. Adhyatmic, adibhautic, adidaivik. We're always suffering or being threatened to suffer by one of them. And that threat is also a kind of suffering. Why we have these huge insurance companies, you know? Well, if the worst happens, you know, if you die, well, okay, your kids will be taken care of, you know, life insurance, health insurance, car insurance, fire insurance, all kinds of insurance. Then when it gets too bad, the adidaivics, it's so bad that there's hurricanes in Florida all the time, and there's forests here. You can't insure your house against fire. You can't insure it against hurricanes because it's too likely, you know, then there's another misery. So those are the threefold miseries. And then the big ones, which are kind of part of that, is birth, old age, disease, and death. Birth, old age. Anything that takes birth must eventually die. And then, and even if it's just anything that's created, this building will eventually meet the end of all buildings. There'll be an earthquake or just the elements, whatever it is. So that's the world we live in. And the whole thing is this time. Whatever we hope to achieve is just eventually destroyed by the passage of time. You see, except any spiritual assets we have. That's not destroyed. Remember a few verses back we had this key verse. Neha brikkamanashosti pratyabhayo davidyate. Svapamapa siddharmasa trayate mahato bayat. In this endeavor, Krishna consciousness, there's no loss and no diminution. Whatever you do, of course, the more you do, you know, the more you can, you know, quicker you can achieve perfection. But even just a little advancement protects you from the greatest danger, losing the human form of life. The human form of life is a great benediction, because only in this form can you inquire into these subjects, and can you discipline the lower self by the higher self, by strengthening the intelligence. We dealt with that a few verses back. So that you can go against the grain of your, you know, the nature, the impulses, what your body, your senses are telling you to do. And train up so that you can actually train the mind and the senses to stay on the transcendental platform. Otherwise, in the lower animals, what's going on? Is there a fire going on here? Can you check what's happening back there? Hare Krishna. I don't know where everyone is. Is it coming from outside or is it from inside? They burn the milk. And hopefully it's something that's contained. All right, so the verse we just read talks about this Vishaya Vinivartante, and any devotee who practices Krishna consciousness seriously can get, you know, can experience the meaning of this verse firsthand. That you know, you're haunted by something, thoughts or whatever, or addictions, and you've been wrestling with it for so long. But if you take the Krishna consciousness, you can get the spiritual strength to actually give it up, and then blessedly lose the taste for it. And then you can really remain fixed. That's called vairagya. All right, so let's go on to text 60. The same theme is going on here. Yatato yapi kaunteya. Text 60? Page 126. Yatato yapi kaunteya purushasya vipashchitaha indriyani pramatini hadanti pasabang manaha. The senses are so strong and impetuous, O Arjuna, that they forcibly carry away the mind, even a man of discrimination who is endeavoring to control them. Purport. There are many learned sages, philosophers, and transcendentalists who try to conquer the senses, but in spite of their endeavors, even the greatest of them sometimes fall victim to material sense enjoyment due to the agitated mind. Even Vishwamitra, a great sage and perfect yogi, was misled by Menaka into sex enjoyment. Maybe we got to open that door a little bit, get the burning smoke out. Sense enjoyment. Although the yogi was endeavoring for sense control with severe types of penance and yoga practice. Penance, and Prabhupada uses the word penance and austerity as synonyms, so just remember that. And of course, there are so many similar instances in the history of the world Therefore, it is very difficult to control the mind and senses without being fully Krishna conscious. Without engaging the mind in Krishna, one cannot cease such material engagements. A practical example is given by Sri Yamunacharya, a great saint and devotee, who says, and he probably quotes this verse in another purport too, Yadavadi mama cheta Krishna pada davinde navanavana sadhamam yuddatam rantumasi tadabadi badanadi sangame smayamane mbapati mukapikara sushtunishtivanangcha. Does anyone know how to turn on the exhaust fan here? I don't think anyone has learned that. Okay, I'm going to do that. Take a time out. It'll take approximately 10 seconds. This is very important during the COVID. You turn it on and any virus here will be sucked out completely. Hey. So, translation. Yamunacharya. Yamunacharya says, since my mind has been engaged in the service of the lotus feet of Lord Krishna, and I have been enjoying an ever-new transcendental humor, whenever I think of sex life with a woman, my face at once turns from it, and I spit at the thought. Now, you have to know that Yamunacharya had an interesting history. First of all, he turned out to be the guru of Ramanujacharya. Yamunacharya was a very important figure in the history of Vaishnavism in India. But so when he was growing up, he was a very, very brilliant student. He was in an ashram and he learned the Shastra and so many things, you know. So when he's, I don't know how old he was, maybe 14, 15, there was the king had a court pundit, you know, who was very, very good at arguing and defeating others at debate, you know. So Yamunacharya said, well, and the king said, well, anyone who can defeat this pundit, I'll give him half the kingdom. So Yamunacharya, he accepted the challenge. And he was just a boy, you know. And everyone was saying, oh, he can't do anything, you know. So the king made this offer, you know. So I forget the detail. Do you know the story? He asked, I'm going to look it up and I'll tell you the story later. But so the pundit gave him some riddles which he was able to solve, you know, some verbal riddles. And then he asked some questions of the pundit, and the pundit was dumbfounded. He couldn't answer 3 questions. And so he won the debate. So suddenly he's a 15-year-old kid with half of a huge kingdom, you know. So he became the king, and he kind of put all the austerities of the ashram in the background, you know, and he got into being a king. So that went on for some years. He turned, you know, now he's 25 or 30, you know. So one of his old friends from the ashram visited him in the kingdom. And he said, oh, nice to see you, you know, gave him a big hug. I forget his name. I'm going to learn it in more detail. Let's go for a walk, his friend told him. So they went for a walk in the gardens and then a little, you know, out into the forest. And meanwhile, and while they were walking, the friend was reminding Yamunacharya of all kinds of wonderful nectar verses that they used to learn and chant together, like this ones I chanted, you know. And so Yamunacharya, he woke up, you know. He said, "Oh, you know, I've lost my spiritual standing, you know." So he just kept walking. He walked right out of the kingdom, back into the ashram. And then he said, you know, this verse before, he got the higher taste, and he lost his taste for the Lord. So that's exactly what, this is an expansion. So while he was the king, of course, he had all advantages, the harem and everything, you know. But then now he's saying, you know, when I just remember it, I don't want it. It's not that I'm tempted. It's that, no, how could I have done that? You know what I'm saying? So he became completely full of vairagya. And he was simply attached to Krishna. And that's what this whole verse. Ever since I've been, moment to moment, enjoying the nectar of serving Krishna's lotus feet and experiencing that, never ever knew transcendental humor. Humor here doesn't mean joking. It means the rasa. It means the taste. Then I'm not even, if I happen to think of that, those other experiences, I say, oh, how could I have done that, Rather than, if you go on to another kind of sense credit, maybe a more wholesome kind, then you may still get pulled back to the lowest kind. So he's showing the reality and the truth of the verse 59 that what Krishna is giving. Krishna consciousness is such a transcendently nice thing that automatically material enjoyment becomes distasteful. It is as if a hungry man had satisfied his hunger by a sufficient quantity of nutritious eatables. Maharaj Ambarish also conquered a great yogi, Durvasa Muni, simply because his mind was engaged in Krishna consciousness. Savaivana Krishna Padada Bindayo Vachangsi Vaikunta Gunana Varnane. Now I'm trying to remember a verse. Oh yeah. Padesh. But here. This is a similar thing. Bhakti Padeshanubhavo Virakti Anyata Chaisha Trika Eka Kala Papundimanasya Tashatuksu Tushti Pushti Chadapayo Anugasam. Very nice verse, the same idea. So, for one who is experiencing Krishna consciousness in full intensity, he experiences, who is surrendered to the Lord, experiences three things practically simultaneously. Bhakti, Padeshanubhavo, Virakti, which means, bhakti means the pleasure of loving Krishna and serving Krishna. Pada Isha Anubhava means direct experience of the Lord. He reveals himself. And Virakti, detachment from everything else. Bhakti Padeshanubhava Virakti, Bhakti Padeshanubhava Virakti, Anyata Chaisha, Chika Eka Kala, simultaneously. Pabudyamanasya, one who's surrendered, Yatashtantaksu, just as someone who's sitting down to a nice prasadam feast. The one I always, for this verse, the one I always call attention to is the Lord Nrsingadev's appearance day. You don't eat until it's supposed to be moonrise, so it's late, or sunset. I'm sorry, right? It's evening time when it's neither day or night. So it's a long feast, So and the prasadam is nicely prepared. You have a good appetite. So you sit down, and that's this feast. So tushti, pushti, chadapayo, anugasam. With every mouthful, right, you experience pleasure, tushti. Pushti, nourishment. And as you eat, anugasam, or rather, as you're eating, you become detached from everything else. You're completely absorbed in eating, So the whole things are there. So similarly, when you become experienced in Krishna consciousness, you're never out of touch with Krishna. You're always in some kind of bliss. People would visit Srila Prabhupada. He would just be sitting there chanting, and you could see he was completely satisfied and happy, I mean, it's so wonderful to think you don't need practically anything. A string of japa beads, maybe, tulsi, and, simple, but external. But you're experiencing the higher pleasure. And it doesn't depend on, how strong you are or anything, You can be an old man or old woman, and you're just peaceful and happy. That's the fact. And that's how the soul is in its natural condition. So we can all aspire for that, We may not be able to do everything, but we should try as hard as we can, knowing that, hey, we've got many lives in the past. This is the most auspicious life, and I'm sure I'll be a human being, and I'm going to continue on. Or we can really get serious and try to get back to God in this one lifetime. So that's, he's continuing to describe how one can become stita pragya, consciousness fixed. If one is, what is it? What's the big austerity? If you're enjoying it every moment, why should you ever forget Krishna? The thing is that we still have some of that envy, and so we consciously forget Krishna to try to enjoy again the material life. And that's why we need sadhana and practice to become stronger and stronger in Krishna consciousness. Okay. Should I read 661? We're getting near the end of the chapter. Okay. Tani sarvani samyamya yukta asita matparaha vashahi yasyandriyani tasya pragya pratishtita. Yeah, again he's talking about the fixed consciousness. One who restrains his senses, keeping them under full control, and fixes his consciousness upon me, is known as a man of steady intelligence. Purport. That the highest conception of yoga perfection is Krishna consciousness is clearly explained in this verse. And unless one is Krishna conscious, it is not at all possible to control the senses. As cited above, the great sage Durvasa Muni picked a quarrel with Maharaj Ambarish, and Durvasa Muni unnecessarily became angry out of pride and therefore could not check his senses. On the other hand, the king, although not as powerful a yogi as the sage, but a devotee of the Lord, silently tolerated all the sage's injustices and thereby emerged victorious. The king was able to control his senses because of the following qualifications as mentioned in the Srimad Bhagavatam, 9th canto, 4th chapter, texts 18 to 20. Sabai mana Krishna badara bindayo pachangsi vaikunda gunanu varnane karo hare mandira marjanarishu shooting chakara chita satkatodeye mukunda lingalaya darshane drisho tadbritchigatra sparshinga sangamam granam chitatpara saroja saurabhe shrimat tulasya rasanam tarapite Pado hadev chet padana sarpane shiro rishikesha padabi vandane kamam chadasi natu kama kameya yatottama shloka janashaya ratihi. King Ambarish fixed his mind on the lotus feet of Lord Krishna, engaged his words in describing the abode of the Lord, his hands in cleansing the temple of the Lord, his ears in hearing the pastimes of the Lord, his eyes in seeing the form of the Lord, his body in touching the body of the devotees, his nostrils in smelling the fragrance of the flowers offered to the lotus feet of the Lord, his tongue in tasting the tulsi leaves offered to him, his legs in traveling to the body at the holy place where his temple is situated, his head in offering obeisances unto the Lord, and his desires in fulfilling the desires of the Lord. And all these qualifications made him fit to become a matpara, devotee of the Lord. Matpara means one who belongs to Krishna. The word matpara is most significant in this connection. How one can become matpara is described in the life of Maharaj Ambarish. Srila Baladev Vijayabhushan, a great scholar and acharya in the line of the matpara, remarks, Mad bhakti prabhavena sarvendriya vijaya purvika svatma drishti sulabheti bhavaha. The senses can be completely controlled only by the strength of devotional service to Krishna. Also, the example of fire is sometimes given. Quote, as a blazing fire burns everything within a room, Lord Vishnu, situated in the heart of the yogi, burns up all kinds of impurities. The Yoga Sutra also prescribes meditation on Vishnu and not meditation on the void. The so-called yogis who meditate on something which is not the Vishnu form simply waste their time in a vain search after some phantasmagoria. We have to be Krishna conscious. We have to be Krishna conscious, devoted to the personality of Godhead. This is the aim of the real yoga. So he's reiterating the same points again and again. That all the senses, and soon he's going to say even one of the senses that the mind fixes on can drag away the mind. Can like a boat on the water, a powerful wind could take you finally away. So all the senses have to be controlled. Okay, let's see. So it's almost time to adjourn. But this story of Durvasa Muni, just to tell it real quickly here, is that Durvasa, you know, I always thought, because I don't know Sanskrit really, but I thought Vasa was talking about his clothes, that they were far away, that he was walking around naked. No, I was wrong. Vasa here means his abode, living condition. Dura means difficult. He's difficult to live with. That's what this means. He's impossible to live with because he has a big temper. So Durvasa was very proud of his yoga, accomplishments, and he had some mystic powers. So he became envious of Ambarish, because Ambarish was the king, and kings are not known to be advanced in yoga. You know, they have to do pounds, shilling, pence, and all this stuff. But here was this king, Ambarish, who was highly revered by everybody, because he was a great devotee. Even though he was a king, as described here, he had connected everything, with Krishna. Whatever he saw, he was seeing Krishna's form, he was hearing Krishna's words and passed on, you know. So that's described in these verses. And so Durvasa, he figured out a plot, because Ambarish was very, very strict about Ekadashi. We know about Ekadashi, we're 1-2 times a month, you know, you don't eat any grains and beans, right? So that's Prabhupada's, you know, mercy on us. Real Ekadashi means you fast completely from everything, including water. You stay up all night chanting Hare Krishna, and then the next morning you break, you know, with. So that's so he was regularly doing that Ambarish, and there's a certain time the next morning, an interval, which we have on our calendar, when you're supposed to break the fast. So Durvasa, he decided to really cause trouble for this Ambarish. So he comes to visit him, knowing how strict he is with the Ekadashi, maybe 15 minutes before the time to break the fast, you know. So Ambarish is very, you know, proper, and he's a Kshatriya, and Durvasa is a great Brahmin, so he honored him, you know, and he's going to invite him to join him to break the fast. So he says, okay, I'll bathe first. Because this is the thing, you know, I'll take a bath first and we'll have breakfast together. So he's bathing, and Ambarish is watching, you know, the time, and it becomes time to break the fast, and Durvasa is not coming out of his bath, you know. So what to do? Because if that interval passes, then you lose the benefit, it's an offense and all this, you know. So he consulted with he's a king, so he had these Brahmin pundits, you know, and what should I do? And he himself came up with the solution. I'll drink some water. Water is, after all, you know, not really breaking the fast, right? But it's still breaking the fast in terms of the Ekadashi. So that was the solution. So he sipped a little water and broke the fast in the interval. Then Durvasa came out, and he knew by his mystic power that Ambarish had taken some water. Now, it's a great offense if you take food before your guest, you know, when you have an unexpected guest comes, you know. So what's the big offense? Drink a little water, you know. But Durvasa, he used this as an excuse to become totally enraged that, oh, Ambarish has offended me, you know. So with his mystic power, he pulled out a hair and created a female Kritya, demoness, fiery demoness, to burn Ambarish to ashes for this small offense. Who could, you know? So Ambarish is like Prahlad. You know, this Kritya is coming at him to burn him, and he's just standing there chanting Hare Krishna. You know, he wasn't perturbed, which is amazing. But the chakra, Krishna's chakra, came and destroyed the Kritya, and then went after Durvasa. Now, it's actually pretty auspicious to be killed by the chakra. As you know, Krishna did that, and then everyone's liberated. But Durvasa wasn't that advanced. He was terrified, and he started running, going by his mystic power here and there. He asked Shiva to help him. He said, "What I can do? You got the chakra after you, Krishna's Narayan chakra." Same thing with Brahma. So finally, he went to Vaikuntha, and he was able to the Vaikuntha planet in this universe, Dhruvalok. Vishnu is there. He bows down to Vishnu. Please call off your chakra. He says, a famous verse, Aham Bhakta Paradino. I forget the whole saying. He says, I'm not independent. I'm under the control of my devotees. You know, I don't know anyone but them. They don't know anyone but me. So you want to get relief, you have to go back down to Ambarish and get his mercy. He says, all right, he's going. The chakra's right behind him. You know, he feels the heat. Boom, 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 and he offers his dandavats to Ambarish. And of course, Ambarish, he has no enmity to him. He says, he calls the chakra, please, chakra. You know, so the chakra. So this is how Durvasa learned his lesson, at least for a little while, till the next time he goes off. You know, but so that's the idea, that the power of the devotee, because Krishna's behind him, is greater, even though he's just humble. And he comes up with Prahlad so much, how he was able to stop the imprecations of his father. All right, that was our poetry period, and we have to stop now. But I told the poem in the class, so Hare Krishna. So we'll resume tomorrow. You're all invited, and I don't think there'll be a wedding going on. But anyway, it was okay. All glories to Srila Prabhupada.